You think it was the rage that built you? Huh? That fury, that fire they sparked inside you, that storm you kept caged behind your teeth. You really believe that's what made you strong? Let me break it to you slowly, painfully, the only way truth ever arrives. Rage is cheap. Anyone can burn the world down when they're mad enough. That's easy. That's weak. You know what's hard? Huh? Real hard? Waking up every day, swallowing the same poison, hearing the same laughs behind your back, feeling the same blade twist in your chest from people you once swore you'd die for. And not snapping. That's discipline. That's real power. Not explosions, not tantrums. Control. Cold, calculated, silent control. That's what made you dangerous. And see, people got it twisted. They see a man walking, quiet, keeping to himself, not screaming, not swinging. They call him weak. They call him soft. But I know what that silence hides. I know the war inside your head. You've buried battles no one ever saw. You've bled in rooms with no windows. You've built empires out of ashes, your own ashes. You trained yourself to smile when everything inside you begged to scream. And that's why they're afraid of you. Not because you shouted, not because you broke something, but because you didn't. You could have. You wanted to, but you didn't. They pushed you, tested you, lied to your face, stabbed your back, and you just kept moving. You didn't beg. You didn't whine. You didn't throw a fit. You studied. You trained. You waited. You evolved. That's what real monsters do. Not bark, not bite. Just observe, sharpen, and when the moment comes, strike once, silence again. You know who survives in the end? Not the loudest, not the one with the biggest fists or the angriest screams. It's the disciplined, the one who shows up even when he's broken, the one who works when nobody's watching, the one who doesn't post his pain, doesn't seek sympathy, doesn't crumble when left alone. That's you. And they don't even see it coming, do they? They're too busy underestimating, laughing, mocking, thinking they've broken you because you didn't react. But that's the trap, isn't it? You weren't silent because you lost. You were silent because you were loading. Let them laugh. Let them think they've won. That's the funniest part. They think your quiet is weakness when it's actually your reload time, the calm before your storm. You're not done. You're just not loud about it. You're the kind of person who takes pain, turns it into fuel, takes betrayal, turns it into plans, takes loss, turns it into legacy. That's the kind of threat they can't measure, because you're not burning with rage anymore. You're freezing with purpose. And that, my friend, is scarier than any scream. They thought breaking you would be the end of your story. Nah, it was just the end of your kindness, the end of your softness. What's left is focused, brutal, disciplined, and that's the version they can't predict. You used to fight for people. Now you fight for the vision, the future, the silence. And every step you take now, it terrifies them. Because you're not shouting, you're not swinging wildly, you're thinking, you're moving strategically. And that kind of danger, it doesn't come with warning signs, it comes with aftermaths. So remember this, whenever you start to feel like you lost your edge, like you're too calm, too detached, remind yourself, rage is a flicker, discipline is a flame. One dies quick, the other burns forever. You don't need to prove anything. Your scars already speak volumes. Your silence already screams louder than their noise. Keep walking, keep working. And when the day comes, they'll see. They'll see exactly what they created. And it won't be rage that destroys them. It'll be the monster that patience built. You remember those nights you sat in silence, don't you? Eyes wide open, staring at a ceiling that never answered your questions. Those weren't just sleepless nights. They were sharpening sessions. You were molding yourself in the dark while the rest of them slept easy, thinking the game was over. They had no idea the real game hadn't even started. You weren't losing. You were transforming. Quietly, painfully. Every betrayal, a lesson. Every failure, a map. Every lie they told you, a reminder of why softness had to die. They thought you were just suffering. Number, you were building. You were becoming. Piece by piece. Controlled. Cold. Focused. You didn't raise your voice. You raised your standards. And now look at them. Still running their mouths. Still trying to trigger the old version of you. They want that unfiltered rage, that emotional wreck, the guy who reacts, who pleads, who bleeds in front of them. But that version's dead. You buried him without a funeral. What stands in his place now is a man with eyes like a scalpel, precise and unmerciful. You're not here to entertain their drama anymore. You're not here to seek revenge either. You're here to build something that outlives the noise, to create results so real, so undeniable, that they won't have the guts to say your name without swallowing regret. And they will regret it. Not because you got angry, but because you didn't. Because you didn't break down in front of them. Because you didn't go begging for closure. You just vanished. You vanished into a darker version of yourself. And in that void, you trained. You leveled up. You grew into a silence so loud it echoes in every room you once stood in. And that echo, it haunts them. Because it reminds them they lost something irreplaceable. You, your presence, your loyalty, your time, your mind. And when someone like you detaches, that's not just loss, that's devastation. But let me tell you why discipline is feared more than rage. Rage is messy, it's reactive, it's emotional, It burns everything, including the one who holds it. But discipline? Discipline is a scalpel. Clean, silent, sharp. It doesn't shout. It doesn't warn. It doesn't miss. You didn't survive all this by accident. You didn't walk through hell just to be average. You didn't lose everything just to play nice again. You were forced into a corner. Life left you no choice but to evolve. And you didn't evolve into a bigger monster. You became the surgeon of your own resurrection. Controlled, calculated, quiet. You stopped reacting. That's when you became lethal. That's when the fear started creeping in around them, because they couldn't read you anymore. They couldn't play your emotions like piano keys anymore. You stopped being the puppet, you cut the strings, and suddenly you were the one holding the scissors. That silence, that's power. That stillness, that's intelligence. You watch, you measure, you wait. And when you move, it's surgical, it's final. It's something no rage-fueled fool can ever compete with. People forget. Rage is loud, but undisciplined. It'll punch a wall and break its own hand. Discipline builds the wall that traps their entire world. You don't waste energy anymore. You don't chase closure. You give them distance. You don't argue. You replace. You don't scream, "Watch me." You just let your actions be the nightmare they never wake up from. You became the thing they can't out-talk, can't outlast, can't outrun. You didn't let rage drive you. You let silence sculpt you. And now you walk different. You speak less. You move smarter. You think sharper. You execute faster. That's what danger really looks like. Not a beast screaming in the streets, but a ghost in the system. Unseen, unbothered, unmatched. You went from being the story they laughed at to the silence that exposes their weakness. And you did it not by losing control, but by mastering it. You know what really scares them now? It's not that you're angry. It's that you're not. It's that you don't flinch anymore. That you don't explain yourself. That you don't react when they poke. You just stare. You just nod. You just disappear. That's the part they didn't plan for. They were ready for the chaos, the yelling, the breakdowns. But they weren't ready for the version of you that doesn't need an audience, that doesn't chase answers, that doesn't bleed for people who'd watch you die and still say it was your fault. You became a mystery they can't decode anymore. And people hate what they can't understand. They fear what they can't control. And you turned into something ungovernable. See, that discipline, it's not just about routines and hard work. No, it's about restraint. It's about denying your own urges to slap the hell out of someone who deserves it. It's about smiling while they gossip, knowing damn well the truth would burn their whole lie-built world to the ground. It's about walking away when everything in you wants to throw hands. That's not weakness. That's God-tier strength. And most people don't have it. They act on impulse. You act on principle. They chase validation. You chase legacy. They want attention. You want results. And that's why they hate you, even when they say they love you. They don't know how many times you could have exposed them, destroyed them, humiliated them, but you didn't. Not because you couldn't, but because you're too focused, too evolved, because their drama is a distraction and you got bigger demons to kill inside every day. You think they could survive what you've survived? You think they could carry your weight without collapsing? Number, they'd fold, they'd cry, they'd post quotes online and beg for pity. You didn't do that. You went silent. You built in the dark. And now? Now the light doesn't even tempt you. You found peace in shadows. You found home in the chaos. And that's the type of discipline that separates you from the herd. You know what's wild? You used to explain yourself, defend yourself, try to prove your intentions, make people see your heart, make them understand you were different, that you were loyal, that you were real. And all it did was drain you, hurt you, exhaust you. Now, you let them misunderstand you. You let them assume. You let them paint whatever image they want, because you don't owe anyone clarity anymore. You owe yourself peace. You owe yourself progress. And every time you bite your tongue instead of snapping back, every time you walk away instead of exploding, every time you choose growth over revenge, you win. Quietly, permanently, painfully for them. And that's what discipline does. It changes your appetite. You stop craving attention and start craving results. You stop needing to be liked and start needing to be respected. You stop begging for love and start demanding loyalty. You stop explaining your worth and start living like it's unquestionable. You become so solid that no storm can shake you, so sharp that no lie can dull you, so silent that your absence screams louder than their presence ever could. That's power. That's what they fear, not rage. Rage is predictable, but discipline? Discipline is unpredictable. It's the sniper in a world of loud gunshots, the slow drip of poison instead of the obvious stab. It's surgical, tactical, lethal. And now you move like a shadow. No noise, no warning, just impact, just change, just results. You're not here to make a scene. You're here to build one. One where your enemies don't even know they've lost until they're buried in the silence you left behind. That's who you are now. That's what they made when they broke the old you. Not a monster, not a villain, but something worse. A weapon refined by restraint. A danger honed by discipline. You're not driven by rage. You're driven by purpose. And that's why they can't sleep anymore. Let's talk about that silence again, because it's not just a lack of noise, it's a language. And you speak it fluently now. It's not that you don't feel anymore. It's that you've learned to channel those feelings into something unstoppable. That fire, you didn't let it consume you. You made it your forge. You didn't scream when they betrayed you. You didn't post when they mocked you. You didn't beg when they replaced you. You just built day after day, brick after brick. While they laughed, you planned. While they partied, you plotted. While they pointed fingers, you pointed inward and fixed every broken piece they left behind. And now, look at you. Not louder, not more emotional, just more precise, more unshakable. That's not a glow-up. That's not revenge. That's discipline in its final form, becoming untouchable. And what they don't realize is they trained you. Every time they disrespected you, they sharpened your edges. Every time they left you out, they fueled your focus. Every time they let you down, they lifted your standards. You were forged by the same hands that tried to break you. That's the irony. They built the weapon they now fear. They just didn't expect you to carry it this well. They thought pain would destroy you. They didn't know pain was your professor. And failure? That was your syllabus. Betrayal? Your textbook. You studied every cut, every loss, every tear, and you graduated with honors in never again. Now, you don't just walk different, you calculate every step. You don't just breathe different, you use every breath to stay 10 moves ahead. They can't bait you anymore. You've seen too much, felt too deep, bled too long. And when you realize you're the only one you can count on, that's when everything changes. That's when the noise becomes useless. The fake smiles lose value. The compliments sound hollow. Because you've built something they can't touch. An inner code. A standard. A silence that no lie, no manipulation, no drama can penetrate. But here's the thing. No one wants to admit. Being disciplined hurts. It's lonely. It's isolating. It's not for the faint-hearted. People think it's just about grinding. No. It's about grieving too. Grieving the old you. The one who used to trust too fast, give too much, believe too quickly. That version died for a reason. And his death birthed someone colder, smarter, stronger. Not because you wanted to be that way, but because life left you no other choice. You didn't choose to be this cold. You chose not to burn anymore, and the only way to stop burning is to freeze. And in that frost, you found clarity, you found peace, you found control. And now, you don't waste time proving anything. You're done explaining. You're done defending. If they don't get it, let them stay confused. If they don't believe in you, let them stay blind. You're not here for their applause. You're here for your own evolution. Your mission is bigger than validation. Your discipline is louder than their doubt. Your silence is heavier than their words. Let them talk. Let them twist stories. Let them rewrite the past. You keep building Keep moving, keep climbing, because when it's all said and done, the results will speak louder than the rumors. And when they finally see you standing at the summit, the same one they tried to block you from, just smile. Not out of revenge, but because you know you made it without rage. You made it with discipline. You ever notice how quiet power is? Real power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't post selfies. It doesn't beg to be seen. It just moves. It builds in silence, strikes without noise, and disappears like smoke before anyone even realizes what happened. That's the level you're reaching now. That's where discipline took you. You used to be emotional. You used to let everything in. Every insult, every look, every rejection. It cut deep. It drained you. You gave too much of your energy to things that didn't deserve it. And you thought being soft was strength. That if you just loved hard enough, forgave deep enough, helped often enough, people would stay. They'd respect you. They'd see your heart and protect it. But all it did was teach them how to hurt you better. And now you've learned not how to hate, but how to let go, how to detach, how to focus on what matters without wasting another second proving yourself to people who were never listening. That's discipline too. Letting go of the need to be understood, walking away from what you once begged for, standing still when your entire soul wants to chase after someone who couldn't even respect your presence. You don't chase anymore, not because you don't care, but because you finally respect yourself too much to run. They mistook your loyalty for weakness, your patience for permission, your love for naivety. And when they saw you go quiet, they thought they won. They thought you gave up. But nah. You were just tired of pouring oceans into cups too small to hold you. You were just done watering people who'd never even offer you a drink when you were dying of thirst. That silence, it wasn't surrender. It was separation from who you were to who you had to become. Now you don't give warnings, you give results. You don't argue, you level up. You don't announce your moves, you let them echo in the aftermath. And that kind of evolution, that's terrifying to small minds. They want you reactive, emotional, easy to predict, easy to guilt, easy to control. But now you move like winter, cold, silent, unforgiving, and they don't know how to handle it. They try the old games, the old tricks, the old manipulation tactics, but they fall flat because you're not emotionally invested anymore. You're not seeking closure. You're not hoping they change. You're building, you're healing. And every day you wake up and choose growth over revenge, focus over chaos, goals over gossip. You win quietly, but completely. And they'll feel it. Oh, they'll feel it in your absence, in the success they weren't invited to, in the peace they can't disturb anymore. They'll feel it in the way you stop replying, in the way you don't explain, in the way you outgrow everything they tried to box you into. That's what discipline does. It frees you from emotional slavery, from the approval trap, from the addiction to being liked. You don't need their validation anymore. You validate yourself with your consistency, your work, your results, your peace. You used to want to be understood. Now, you just want to be left alone to build. You used to want to be accepted. Now, you want to be untouchable. And trust me, nothing scares the world more than a man who doesn't need it anymore. A man who doesn't chase love, who doesn't flinch at silence, who doesn't fold under pressure. That's the man you've become, not by rage, but by discipline. You ever wonder why they all went silent when you stopped talking? Why the ones who used to joke at your expense, who used to run their mouths loud and proud, suddenly got real quiet when you disappeared into your grind? Because they didn't expect you to stay down and stay disciplined. They were counting on your emotions. They were banking on you breaking down, crying, reacting, proving them right. They weren't prepared for a man who swallowed his pain and forged it into strategy, who didn't yell back, but instead wrote the next chapter in silence. That kind of control, it's unnatural to them, terrifying. Because when someone stops responding, stops seeking attention, stops feeding into the circus, that's when people realize they're not dealing with someone trying to win the crowd anymore. They're dealing with someone building a kingdom. You remember when they left you for dead, mentally, emotionally, spiritually? When they turned their back, blamed you, laughed, or just vanished like ghosts you once thought were real? You remember how you could have exploded, could have retaliated, could have dragged their names through the dirt with truth they prayed would stay buried, but you didn't. You held back. You walked away. Not because you were weak, but because you finally understood the difference between power and performance. That's what discipline teaches you. It teaches you that you don't have to attend every fight you're invited to. You don't have to answer every lie with a story. You don't have to swing to win. Sometimes the most dangerous move is no move at all. Just silence. Just distance. Just leveling up so loud that they choke on your success without you ever saying a word. You chose peace, not because you're soft, but because you're tired. Tired of being the one who gives, who explains, who fixes what others break, who listens even when no one listens to you, who loves deeply, even while being used. And one day you snapped, not with rage, but with resolve. You told yourself, no more. No more waiting to be appreciated. No more sitting at tables where you're only served silence and stress. No more proving your worth to people too blind to see it. And from that day forward, you became your own anchor, your own storm, your own home. You didn't need validation. You needed a vision. And now that you have it, you've become lethal. Not because of rage, but because you're finally centered. That version of you who used to cry behind closed doors, that was your training phase. That was the cocoon, the dirt, the depth. But this version, the one who walks with purpose and doesn't blink when doors close, that's the butterfly with armor. That's the calm in the chaos. And what most people don't get is that to be this calm, you have to survive hell. You have to eat betrayal like breakfast. You have to breathe through abandonment. You have to keep showing up to a life that kept hitting you without mercy. And you didn't fold. You adjusted. You took every blow and converted it into discipline. And now look, every room you walk into shifts. Every person who once doubted you now whispers. Because your silence is louder than their opinions ever were. You don't walk for them anymore. You don't work for revenge. You work for purpose. You grind for peace. You bleed for a future only you can see. And that's what makes you untouchable. Not the noise, not the flexing, not the rage, but the discipline, the consistency, the refusal to quit. You didn't just get stronger, you got smarter, you got colder, you got strategic. And in a world of chaos and clowns, that makes you dangerous. Because now they don't know what's coming. They don't know what you're building. They don't know when you'll strike, or if you even will. But they know one thing for sure. You're not the same, and that scares them more than anything. You know what really sets you apart now? It's not your pain. Everyone's got pain. It's not your past. Everyone's got scars. What separates you is the fact that you didn't use any of it as a damn excuse. You didn't sit there crying for the world to fix you. You stood up, alone. You faced it, alone. And now you walk like a man whose buried versions of himself no one even knew existed. That's what makes you heavy. Not in the way of burden, but in the way of presence. You walk into a room and people feel it. They don't know what changed, but they feel it. That edge, that stillness, that control. It's the kind that doesn't shout, doesn't ask, doesn't plead. It just exists, solid, silent, unmoved. And they feel small around it. Not because you made them feel small, but because they know they wouldn't have survived what built you. And deep down, that's why they envy you. Not for what you have, but for what you became. You became something they couldn't become, because they never chose discipline. They chose distraction. They chose shortcuts. They chose crowds. You chose the lonely road, the 5 a.m. mornings, the silent grinding, the nights where your own thoughts were your worst enemies and your only companions. You chose the pain that leads to power. And now they watch you with eyes full of stories they'll never admit out loud. Stories like, I underestimated him, or I didn't think he'd make it. Or worse, I wish I was like him. But they'll never say it. They'll just sit in the shadows and watch the one they doubted become the standard they can't reach. That's what silence does. That's what discipline carves. It makes you a monument to everything they thought you'd never be. And you didn't get here with anger. You didn't scream your way to this level. You earned it, quietly, through repetition, through resistance, through restraint. You kept your mouth shut when they lied. You kept your fists down when they deserved to be broken. You kept your plans private while they bragged about dreams they'd never chase. And every time they took your silence as weakness, they wrote another line in the eulogy of their own relevance. Because now, you've outgrown their words. You've outpaced their efforts. You've outclassed their energy. And all you did was stay focused, stay dangerous, stay disciplined. They don't talk about the years you were invisible, the times you smiled while dying inside, the nights you stitched your own wounds because no one else showed up. They only see the result, the frame, the posture, the eyes, the way you move like someone who's seen too much to be shaken by anything small. They see the calm, but not the war it took to create it. And that's fine. Let them wonder. Let them guess. Because part of your power now is the mystery, the unpredictability. You're not emotional bait anymore. You're not the guy who reacts. You're the guy who watches, who calculates, who moves when it matters, and never to entertain. And you know what's wild? The stronger you became, the quieter you got. You stopped sharing every move. You stopped defending your choices. You stopped explaining your boundaries. Because when you're truly disciplined, you realize that not everything deserves access. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Some people are just loud furniture in a room that needs to be empty. And silence, that's how you renovate your peace. That's how you clear space for clarity, for growth, for God to move. You used to think walking away was losing. Now you know, walking away is wisdom. So keep going, keep building, keep becoming. Let them gossip, let them wonder, let them sit in circles and talk about the man they can't touch anymore. Because your silence has already said everything that needs to be said. You're not made of rage, you're made of rituals, representatives, resilience, and the kind of patience that makes devils nervous. And when the dust finally settles, you won't be the loudest man in the room. You'll be the last one standing. They'll never understand the weight you carry. Not truly. They see you standing tall now, steady, composed, quiet, and they think it came easy. That you just changed, that something clicked. But what they don't see is the thousands of battles that happened in the silence. The nights you broke down in the shower and wiped away tears before anyone could hear you. The mornings you got out of bed with your soul in pieces, but your mission intact. They don't see that your discipline isn't some genetic trait. It's a rebellion against everything trying to kill your spirit, against the weakness you are expected to sink into, against the odds stacked so high most people would have folded. You didn't fold, you adapted. And that's what makes you rare. You learned how to suffer and still progress. You learned how to lose people and still not lose yourself. That's a type of dangerous... They don't teach in any school. It's forged in solitude, not textbooks. You used to think they'd clap for you. That one day they'd say, "Damn, he made it." That they'd acknowledge the growth, the glow up, the grind. But instead, they got quieter, distant, bitter. Why? Because your discipline became a mirror. And when undisciplined people look into that mirror, all they see is everything they're not. You remind them of the effort they never gave, the focus they never had, the sacrifices they were too soft to make. And instead of leveling up, they try to pull you down. With silence, with shade, with subtle disrespect. But none of it matters anymore, does it? Because now you know who you are. And the man who knows who he is, he's untouchable. You stopped needing their support the day you learned how to stand on your own 2 feet, no matter how badly the world tried to trip you. You used to explain your silence. You used to feel guilty for not being available. You used to think being real meant always being accessible, always being soft, always being forgiving. But now you understand. Silence is protection. Distance is peace. Discipline is freedom. The tighter you held your standards, the faster the wrong ones fell away. And that's the lesson most never learn. They think silence is lonely, when in fact, it's cleansing. You don't need 10 fake friends. You need one vision, one mission, one future. And you finally committed to it without looking back. You no longer entertain distractions, detours, or dead weight. Because you know exactly where you're going. And you're going there with intention, with precision, with zero tolerance for nonsense. And now they call you cold, distant, arrogant, because you refuse to bend for chaos, because you don't chase after people who walk away, because you don't respond to every invitation to war. But the truth is, you're none of those things. You're just tired. Tired of being the one who always bends. The one who always tries. The one who always holds the line. You're not bitter. You're just done. Done explaining. Done apologizing for your boundaries. Done shrinking for people who couldn't handle your real size. And most of all, you're done pretending you need anything other than what you're building right now. That's the power of discipline. It makes your silence heavy, your presence scarce, and your future inevitable. You're not in competition anymore. You're in alignment, with purpose, with progress, with peace. And while the world keeps running in circles, screaming for attention, you move differently. You move like a man who knows time is currency and energy is expensive. You don't invest in chaos anymore. You invest in mastery. You study, you work, you build, and you do it with the kind of focus that makes even the loudest ones feel nervous. Because deep down, they know rage makes noise. But discipline builds empires.